they're hiding Bigfoot. Okay. You know?
Well, maybe they are.
Very well could have been actually a bear on the trail, and they, you know, I'm not saying that they closed it because of Bigfoot. I'm saying, you know, it's just that coincidence when I read it compared to, you know, the bear sighting just was perfect.
Well, okay, how long were you a deputy in your county?
I worked law enforcement in my county for... Okay, well, I started in 2000 in the county I live in, and I've worked in different agencies in 3 counties.
Okay.
And retired officially in 2016.
Well, while you were a deputy in that county and in a couple other counties in law enforcement, did you ever get much reports of Bigfoot in the area, or, you know, alien UFO reports or stuff like that?
There were... I didn't take any reports of it, but at different times, I know that there have been calls that have come in for unknown animals that could not. There was a Bigfoot sighting just outside of Waynesville, which is the county seat. It was literally standing on the center line of the main road leading in and out of town, with cars passing both ways. That was years before I came to the area and started law enforcement. With the military base, we always have people, oh, there's a UFO, I'm seeing strange lights, when it usually is actually flares being dropped or, you know, some kind of night maneuver taking place.
Okay, I was just trying to figure if any of that, you know, instills something in you to, you know, sit down and start writing the books. Now, again, where are your books available at? How can they find them? Do you have a website, your Facebook, all that stuff? Why don't you tell the listeners where they can find it?
All of the books are available on Amazon. I also have a website that will give you links to where you can purchase besides just Amazon. The website is lizreaderbooks.com.
And can they also contact you on Facebook to order it too that way and make contact that way?
They can absolutely find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm pretty much everywhere. And link to all of my social media.
Wow, you need to write us, after this done, you need to write a series about UFOs, doesn't she, Michael?
Well, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Especially with all of the strange things happening in and around Fort Leonard Wood. My gosh.
Could you imagine an alien coming out of a spaceship that looks like a slimy caterpillar, you know? And so the military gets out, right? And they're running out there with their Jeeps and Humvees and all this stuff, right? And they start shooting at this big giant slug, and they get all covered with slug juice. And then they disappear because it has that stuff in it that dissolves whatever it gets onto.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. By the way, I understand that Liz is doing an illustrated guide to her book series. I was going to ask her about that.
That is definitely in the plans and in the works. I'm taking all of the creature descriptions of all the different encounters in the first series. Those are all being written up along with the case file numbers that are assigned to each one of them, and I'm working with an amazing illustrator who will be doing the actual illustrations for each one of those.
Oh, wow. So, there's going to be 5 books in the series, right? Or more?
Yes. 5 books in the series.
Okay. And now number 3 is going to be coming out, what, shortly?
Probably in the next week.
Oh, wow.
And it is titled 51 Monsters. And I went with that one because not only are they encountering some things that are, definitely monstrous creatures that, the only goal is to kill, but the sheriff has to deal with her mother-in-law. And that might be the biggest monster she has to deal with.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Now, have you given a thought of, are you going to do another series of books of some sort after these are all done? I mean, are you going to keep writing?
I'm doing the prequel series, which will probably be 5 books also. And then I actually have one planned that is not related and not sci-fi, that is... how do I explain this? Basically, these women had gone to school, friends, but their career paths are completely different. You have a doctor, a psychiatrist, a preacher, a gold digger, a hitman, a photographer. You have this group of women who are just completely different, and they kind of work together on different things and help each other out, and yeah.
Wow, boy. I mean, and you have one child, so I mean, that this must consume. I know one thing, Michael, she's up late because there's a 2-hour time difference between our time and her time. So, I'll be up late because I don't go to bed normally till, well, maybe 3 o'clock, and then I have to get up again at 4:30, and then I go back to bed from 7 o'clock to 9, and she's always seems to be on Facebook.
Yeah, I never sleep. That's, yeah. I'm happy if I manage to get 4 hours sleep, I'm happy.
Wow. The energy of somebody so young. She's a young kid, you know that.
No, there is no energy. It's just caffeine and sarcasm that drives me through it.
Okay. Hey, I really am glad you came on the show with such short notice. It all came down to the guest I had on there. I had him booked for 2 hours, but then he said he only had about an hour of content. So I was, and it was a great 1 hour show. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed the guest. It actually turned out way, way better than I thought. But I mean, I started panicking because I couldn't talk for an hour or two after him. I mean, you can only talk so much about, the same thing over and over and over again,
Yeah, I get it. Call me anytime.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you go. Again, tell everybody the name of each book, that the ones that are available now, the ones that's going to be available, and again, they are available on Amazon. You can find her on Facebook and all these other places. Hey, she even does really nice jewelry. So you need to take a look at her website. I mean, this lady is very talented. But, boy, to sit down and write all these books in that short a time, I don't know how she can do it other than she has a lot more energy than she's willing to admit.
It's the total lack of sleep. That's what drives it.
Now we figured it out, Michael, how she's coming up with all these monsters. She's actually not getting enough sleep, so she's deprived of sleep. So she's getting all these little thoughts of these creatures floating around, and she's writing it down.
Well, and I think the close proximity to Fort Leonard Wood might have something to do with all of this. If there's a vortex going on there, messing with her her mind and giving her these downloads, I mean, that's kind of what happens sometimes to writers. I know that. You wake up in the middle of the night and you just can't sleep. You have to write it down.
Or something.
That does happen.
Yeah, but you know what I find interesting, too, seriously, is I still am so, how can I say it? Something is going on her property. And that gets me where you see a young kid walking on the property and then all of a sudden disappears and there's no proof that he walked there. I mean, when you go check it out, that right there, I'd be kind of eerie on my property because did somebody come through another time, a portal, or something? That's why I think I asked her once before if there was any kids at that age, roughly what she thought he was, that maybe went missing, and that is still, walking around. And maybe that same person, I hate to say it, Liz, could be the one that's opening your refrigerator and closing it and saying, hey, there's no Kentucky Fried Chicken in here. What's going on with this lady? Slams your refrigerator closed, and then, again with your bedroom and stuff like that, the door opening and closing. And if I remember right, you told me that was really hard for that door to do that, to open and close.
It was. There was actually at the time a coat rack on the door, so it made it really hard to open and close. And I thought my husband had woke up and come out of the bedroom and closed the door behind him. He heard it and thought I opened the door and had gone into the bedroom and woke him up. So that was something we never figured out, because we each know the other, we didn't do it, so something did.
Well, how about in your refrigerator? What, the door in the refrigerator open and slam shut? I mean, did anything in the refrigerator get rearranged or anything, or?
Nothing gets moved. You just hear it open, and within seconds, hear it close again. And the first couple of times, I thought I was losing my mind by hearing this, but the last few times, the dog that has been next to me has looked toward the kitchen, and he heard it too. So I know it's not just me.
Oh, wow. Well, did you have beer in your refrigerator?
No beer.
That's why. I bet if you would have had some cans of beer in there or bottles of beer in there, you would have went back and checked and found a couple of them missing.
Yeah.
And it probably could have been that kid that's wearing that hoodie and those cargo pants. It could actually somehow be. I mean, did you buy your house intact, or did you have it built?
No, we bought it intact.
Okay. And how many previous owners had that house before you got it?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. And I know at one point there was an old house here on the property that was demolished. So, it's been established as a residential property for a very long time.
Okay, so it could be an entity from, a previous owner or before even the house was built. It's like when I grew up in Seattle, a lot of people don't realize parts of Seattle, actually had even little farms on some of the streets. When I grew up, I was born in 1952. That's the year they discovered the wagon wheel. The house next to my parents' house, which was built in 1952, believe it or not, so it was the same age as me. The property next to us, the person hung himself in the shed, was he had like a couple acres right here in near West Seattle. That was a farm yet. He had goats and he had all that stuff there. That tells you how, cities have changed. But, I mean, all that disappeared after he hung himself. But, the people who, bought the house because they built a new house on the property would always claim that, come over and tell us that the house was haunted. And they couldn't figure out why, because it was a new house. And then one day my older brother, told the people, hey, the previous owner owned the property. He hung himself in this shed. So that could have been the ghosts that they were, experiencing on their house or in their house and on the property.
Yeah, and this particular area, the county was established like in the 1830s. So there were farms here and homesteads here even prior to that. So there's no way to trace it all the way back to when people first built here.
Yeah, but kind of intrigues me, like you were mentioning, kind of a hoodie and cargo pants. That puts it in a time frame where, maybe somebody, like I asked you before, if you ever did any research, if a young kid went missing, around there. Is there any woods or forests right around your house or your property or anything like that?